It got pretty cold last weekend. 15 degrees was our lowest. But it got freezing temperatures from 6 o'clock at night, sometimes till 11 o'clock in the morning. How did the garden fare? Some things, well, not as good as others, but other things did pretty well. So come along, let's go see. For starters, the things that were going to freeze, we brought into our poultry kitchen that has insulated walls. So the little onions, little bitty plants, we brought in here. The aloes, the babies, the flowers, the fig trees. And they did pretty well. In the raised beds, things did pretty good. The Shasta daisies are still green. The roses, well, the flowers bit the dust, but the plant itself is still doing just fine. The lemon trees, well, their leaves are burnt, crisp, all curled up. But we'll see in a couple months just how the tree itself is done. The peppermint did fine, even though this is just a little piece. The bottle brush even survived. The pineapple sage, well, it's quite burnt and crisp, but it should come back by the roots come spring. The apple mint, it's half and half, but it's still alive. They'll come up from the roots. There's already some little baby greens way down in there coming up already. The Florida narcissus, well, they just got a little droopy, but they're still blooming. The ginger said, time to go to bed for the winter. But the roots are all snug and secure down below. The lemon balm, well, it got burnt up. All except for down low. It's still alive. The turmeric is flattened and all brown, but it's just gone to bed for the winter too. It will come back come spring. The garlic chives look a little pathetic, but you just gotta trim them off and they'll be good as new in a few days. The mullein is still green and fluffy. The lilies got burnt, but they'll just go to bed and come back up fresh in the spring. The bee balm didn't mind the freeze one bit at all. It is still so lush and green and just covers the whole bed. Well, to my delight, the Spanish needle all turned brown and died. The goldenrod is still lush and green, along with the Florida betony, as green and lush as ever, and the freezes didn't even kill the elderberry. Killed all the weeds around it, but not the elderberry. Not too sure how this hydrangea will do. We'll see come spring. The oregano got bit a little, but it's still green. The plantain looks a little limp, but it will stand back up. The lemongrass is all brown. The garlic chives are a little flattened, still green, and fixing to bloom even. While the freeze may have killed the one sunflower I had, it didn't touch the rudbeckias, the black-eyed Susans. They spend all winter building up strength to send forth beautiful blooms come summer. Here in Martha's Vineyard, at the food pyramid, the onions are planted. They're a little flat, but they're still green. They'll stand back up. They'll put on new growth, and I think they'll survive just fine. See the new growth? All our winter vegetables are planted in the tunnels, and it was a lot of help. The broccoli probably suffered the most, turning some of its leaves yellow and white. But still some are still quite green, and there's even still a little broccoli head. Some plants are truly worse than others, a little burnt, really whitened, but there's still new growth a-coming. They'll survive just fine. The carrots look a little heavy, but when you pull them up, they's nice and ready for harvest. The celery got a little wimpy. Some of it's just droopy, but new growth is coming on, nice and strong. All the bad leaves that turned colors on the broccoli, we'll just pull off and feed to the chickens. There's another head hiding away. And this pile of weeds, henbit, are some elephant garlic and some spinach. Though spinach loves cold weather, we thought we'd leave a little extra security by leaving the weeds around it before we pulled them up. The baby parsley did just fine, as did the one lone sage seed that came up. And the baby chamomile did fine too. And the big parsley, it doesn't even know that there was a freeze. Over in the other tunnel we have cabbages and collards and a few broccolis and mustards and lettuce. I did have a whole bunch of forget-me-not flowers. They didn't like the cold at all. They just died. It was so pretty with all the blue flowers in between all the big cabbage plants. And the cabbage fared just fine. And the collards did too. Some cabbage plants suffered a little worse than others, but the head's still good. But the freeze only killed the big older forget-me-nots. It didn't kill the little babies coming up. The mustard plants are doing exceptional. Maybe with all the freeze, the bugs have left and they won't be so buggy. The one thing that shocked me the most was the lettuce. It's so little, yet it didn't get burnt one bit. And the bok choice plants I was saving for seed, well, they're all dried out now and ready for harvest. That's how the garden survived. I think I'm going to go harvest some cabbage now.